What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Facts Not Included. It's Tangent Friday. Of course, this is Friday, which means we do not talk about movies and we do not review them. What we do is we sit down with folks around the world of entertainment, or you just hear me spout my mouth on a Friday. But today we do have a very special guest. We have the amazing up-and-coming singer, a guy who is... he's extremely talented. He's also a producer, a vocalist. My good friend. I like to say he's a good friend. We've had many occurrences together. Nick LaFragola, what's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Thank you, Pete. I do appreciate all of the praise.
Again, I've told you I do these intros at Win. So apologies if I left anything out, but we're going to get into everything, so don't worry. How are you handling the lockdown, my friend?
Well, obviously everything is a little slow. It's actually, I'm not going to say it's been good for me,
Okay.
because I feel like that would be a little...
Too optimistic?
Yeah, too optimistic. But it's definitely been conducive to researching and getting my creative juices going.
Really? So for you, it's actually helped that?
Yeah, I know it's about split for a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of artists I know, a lot of art. It just, a lot of people, I guess. So I wouldn't necessarily expect someone who was going through a rougher time with a family member,
Absolutely, yeah.
or had to work all day. I'm fortunate enough where I have had nothing to do with schoolwork and my own personal music endeavors, so
Right.
it's been okay.
It's been tough for me, but like other than like the personal family stuff, creatively, it has been just completely a dry cavernous place I've been in. I have not been able to be, and it might be because of my situation, but in terms of like creatively, I cannot think of a damn thing to do. And that's why we're doing these podcasts, because it's really like I can't, I haven't drawn anything in a while. I haven't written anything in a while, and it's kicking my butt. But I'm glad that you and other people aren't having that creative flux. You're actually able to sit down and make something.
Yeah, and I do have to say, I guess partially is because I don't have a choice, because I've already committed myself to a few different projects, and whether or not I can get it rolling, I just have to come up with the best thing possible and give it to them.
Oh, I see. So you're basically contracted to do all these things.
Yeah, I am contracted to be creative at this point, whether or not I like it.
So let's get into your music, because I mean that's really why you're here. What really made you realize that that music was something that was so powerful for you that you're like, I have no choice but to want to do this for a career? Or was it seen as a hobby first? Like, go into that.
So initially, when I was coming out of my second semester of my second year at the University of Delaware, I wasn't really involved in any sort of music organizations there.
Right.
And you know, when you come home, you're doing something around with your friends, you know, just playing music. And then I remember a close friend of mine who also is a producer. He was over one day and he said, "Hey, you know, let me show you how to make beats." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, I don't think I would like that, because I feel like everyone does that, but I'll take a look at it. Like, there's no reason for me not to try." And ever since then, I actually really enjoyed doing it. So when I first started, these are things that are not released on any platforms, and probably won't be. They'll be in my vault. Are my initial music production
Right.
undertakings, which is really done on this program, Mixcraft, which nobody really uses, and I didn't know that because I was still new, and I was just kind of doing my own thing with like loops and figuring out how to compose something in my own way. And then I decided to take that and look into where I can go to school for that. So then that's how I ended up telling my parents that I was going to withdraw from Delaware. That was a talk that I wasn't looking forward to for a while, but
Yeah, of course not.
I feel like it had to be made. Because when you start doing something and it just feels like it gives your life a new sense of purpose.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's something that I really couldn't ignore. So that's why, yeah. So in the fall I was taking classes at Baruch, just getting some more credits out of the way and applying. Then I ended up at Stevens, where I am now, in the music technology program, and that's definitely where I belong. I can
That's
tell you
in
that.
Jersey, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right outside. It's in Hoboken.
yeah. It's I mean, it's gut wrenching decision, right? Like you've for several years, like, I'm going to Delaware, I'm doing
Yeah.
this, I'm gonna be this person, and it's like, oh wait, I don't want to do that. And that's listen, you made that decision right when you were supposed to make that decision. A lot of people make that decision 18 years after they got that degree.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, wait, I can't really do anything now. And it's like, but you did it the moment you were getting it. And so, best decision probably ever. Um,
Something that I always say when people are asking me, like what in terms of like a job, the job I'm actually looking for is I'm looking to teach
right.
mostly music education. So I'll be looking into that. Basically, what comes to my mind first is just honestly, I can say I feel this is going to be very deep. Um, I feel very blessed that at the end of the day, I know I chose to follow what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I think I'll always appreciate that decision for myself.
I mean, you have so many people from a certain generation that didn't do what they wanted to do. They did what they were told, or they were by whoever, whether it was society, whether it was their parents or whatever.
Boomers.
Right. Well, yeah, that generation and the generation after.
Right.
Um, but now we're in this time where it comes off as being selfish in some cases, but a lot of people in our generation and the newer generation are just like, no, I'm going to do what I feel is right for me because this is what I know and this is what I love. And that's what we did, right? You did it, I did it. We all the people that have been on this podcast in terms of guests did that thing of like, no, I'm doing what I want to do. I don't care what you say. I'm going to struggle, yeah, but I'm going to get there one day. And for some people, they'll get there overnight, and for some people, they'll get there in whenever.
Hmm.
And I think that's something you understand, right? Like, you get, like, it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Oh no, no, and I guess kind of my whole thing at this point is at the end of the day, I know I made that decision for myself. Because you never know later in life what you will have wanted to change. So at this point, now that I made that decision, the reason why I can't rest is not because I'm denying myself that happiness of being in what I love to do. It's because I want to improve now and get it out to more people.
Mm. Well, the other reason is also because you owe your parents a shit ton of money. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, you're right, man. You're right. I mean, you made the decision. Let's get better at what we decided to do. Um, I mean, not to get too into like religion or whatever, or not religion, but like, I'm a big proponent of this is all we got, right? We're here. This is it. And so do what you can while you're here, you know? And
Yeah, that definitely creates a sense of urgency.
if there is something after, then so be it. But guess what? I'm not completely sure of that. I don't think anyone really is, to be honest. And so, like, let's get there when we get there. But right now, let's do what we can here, because this is the most fun you could have at this time, which is now, literally today, and then tomorrow's tomorrow. You have fun
Hmm.
tomorrow, and so on and so forth. Like, I know there's that cliche of like, live each day like it's your last. But in all honesty, like that is a big powerful statement. And when it comes to being creative, that is exactly how you should live your life. I don't do that as much as I probably should, but I think the people that are doing it right are the ones that are doing that. You know, the people that we look up to. are kind of doing that. They're a testament to working hard every day, and living each day like it's their last. So like when it comes to being a musician, you see, like I've talked to so many musicians about this idea of you live in a world now where music comes out 24/7. It is not like it used to be, not even 15 years ago, where it was like, all right, we only drop music on Tuesdays or some shit, like the record company or whatever. Now you don't need the record company. You could drop music whatever the hell you want to who you want. You have a niche audience that only likes, like, I don't know, cat sounds, and they think that's music. Well, boom, you could deliver that to those specific people. And so like the game has changed. The game is so different now. Do you find that as a benefit for yourself, or do you find that as a harder obstacle?
I think there's honestly, this is something I was kind of researching when I was telling you before. I've had a lot of time to research the music business and different distributing platforms, different publishing platforms. There's honestly a lot of options out there these days for young musicians who want to release music. They feel that they're at the point where they want to spread what they've been able to work hard for. And it's honestly just about researching what you think would be the most conducive to the budget you have, what you think will you be able to have the most creative freedom over. Because if you don't play your cards right, someone could end up owning your music.
Yep.
And it's important to me, at least, to know that the things I make are mine and safe. And that's why I use a distributor called DistroKid. I'm not sure if you're familiar. In a little music business lesson, there's basically like the three big music distributors these days are DistroKid, CD Baby, and TuneCore. And I mean, they all roughly do the same thing. It's just the pricing is different. And really, you can go into specific things that you need, and really like even splitting like a subscription with someone. Like I know on DistroKid, me and a close friend of mine who produced actually the track that's coming out on Friday, we both share the same DistroKid account because we have the two artist account. So we save, I think $5 or something a year each, which is not a lot in terms of, like whatever amount of money that is each month. But, you cut every corner you possibly can. And honestly, the way I see it is if you have something and it's authentic to you and you do your due diligence in promoting it and making sure people know that it exists, then you can get a little far. Like I'm not saying, you're going to be blowing up immediately, but there are definitely ways that I go about, promoting my things. Like, for example, I keep a really specific, calculated Instagram posting schedule.
Yeah.
Like, I don't just post things when I feel like it, which, doesn't really, in the scheme of things, do that much for me or against me. It's just honestly so I know what I'm trying to get out of it. And when I decided to make the switch from my Instagram to be my personal over to my music Instagram, I was nervous that I was going to lose a lot of followers that way, because Instagram really, I'm not sure if you're aware, is like one of the, if not the best way to promote your music now.
We have a good friend of ours that's where he makes his audience numbers. That's really where he gets it at. But no, you're right. Getting your voice out there today, it sounds easy. But of course the obstacle is, well, everyone else is also trying to do it at the same time.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, okay. Like, look at podcasting. When we started in 2016, there was a lot of podcasts. There was at least, I don't know, 4 to 5 to 600,000 podcasts, which is a lot. But now looking at 2020, I was reading it the other day, there's upwards of 1 million to 1.2 million podcasts out there. Now, if you divide that per American citizen. I don't know what the number is, but like, not everybody can listen to every single podcast. So basically, what I'm saying, but there's just too much out there, and so that's why a lot of podcasts take a while to make it there. We're nowhere near where we would like to be. Like we but it's just you gotta grind. You gotta go through that grind, man. And whether or not you ever get out of that grind is not up to you, and that's the problem. it's entirely up to the other people out there that want to give a shit about you, whether or not they do. But again, going back to your work ethic I'm aware of, you're not going to stop that. So I applaud you for that.
Hey, yeah, thank you. It's honestly, I feel, and I like to not only look out for what I'm trying to get out, like I'm happy to help out any other fellow like creatives that I'm in contact with, like you guys, or any of the music people I know from school or other ways, or the videographers, photographers, artists. Honestly, we're just one big entertainment community,
Mm-hmm.
and it's definitely of the utmost importance to make sure we're lifting each other up, because it doesn't hurt for someone to get bigger than you. If you see it that way, I don't think you're really ever going to get to the point where you want to be. If the people around you are growing and you've helped them, then you're going, at least along for a little of that ride. So
I think so. Yeah, I'd like to think that, right? It's I think it's a problem that a lot of people have with themselves, though. Like, oh, Jimmy's getting famous and I'm stuck here. Yeah, but what is Jimmy doing? Jimmy's actually getting off of his ass. There's that too. A lot of people, they're like they that jealous bone in their body, but at the end of the day, they're not doing a damn thing. No, you're right. Like if the people around you, if you surround yourself with creative, positive people, that's what you're going to get out of it. And if you tack onto that successful, creative, talented people, then you might also, like you said, get a little piece of that pie. But it's extraordinary to see so many people that we know become something. And then it's also, it's sad seeing the flip side of like that person that you worked so many times with, just giving up on the thing that they used to hold so dear to themselves. And that's hard to watch. I don't know. It's the beast. It's the beast of the business, right? I guess it's gonna gobble you up at some point.
yeah, I mean, honestly, the way I look at it, to keep myself,
Not to scare
sane.
you, Nick.
No, 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 no. The way, no, no, no. I thought of this too, so I'll kind of tell you how I deal with that. I mean, the way that I keep myself sane through, the many obstacles is just making it really simple. What am I creating? Is it, me, which it should be if I'm making it, and am I proud of it? Will I be able to, own this? If someone says, "Hey, is that your song?" I'm not going to be like, it is, but, that was me, a few years ago, and I was, not as experienced, and I'm not really proud of it. I always want to be proud of what I put out. And I feel like if I keep, I guess, staying tunnel vision towards the goal of getting bigger than where I am now.
You mentioned two things there that I think is pretty important for a lot of people. It is the owning up to your mistakes, owning up to the fact that I've grown as an artist. Yeah, I made shit in the past, but this is who I am now. But also appreciating the fact that at some point you made that trash or whatever it was. Like, and there's a little bit to that that's like, but at one point I held it as my greatest masterpiece. The other idea that you mentioned is also, or at least touched upon, is the idea of is the idea of like what is success at the end of the day. You mentioned tunnel, like tunnel vision, to just focus on what that success is for you at the end. But as I've mentioned to other people that we've had on, is what exactly is success? Like, what is success? Meaning that you are the ultimate, all-time, you know, Grammy award winning musician, or is success just like, oh, I have a little music studio and I teach high school kids on the weekends, and you know, I that's what I do. Like, what what exactly is that? And I'm not asking you to answer that, but it's just something to think about when you're going through the ups and downs of like being a musician or being a creative person. It's just, where do I want to be at the end of this?
Honestly, this is gonna sound, kind of crazy. I already feel success. I was never someone that was able to be confident about my own creations or share them, especially singing. Like I've never sung anything in my life. Um, I always like wanted to, but I just never had the confidence to go and sing in front of people. I could play the trombone in front of thousands of people. That didn't bother me.
Hmm.
But singing, projecting my own voice was something that was scary to me. And I guess I still didn't have to do it when I was recording, but I'm honestly looking forward to doing that if I get the opportunity to. And I feel success because I was able to own that, this is a creation that I have and I'm sharing it with everyone, and whatever feedback comes out of it is what it is. And at the end of the day, I'll be happy whether everyone hates it or everyone loves it, or if it's mixed review, any way it comes out is okay with me because it's learning.
Fuck what people have to say. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. No, it's funny if I could share something on my end. It's like I I'm nowhere like growing up. I thought I could be a singer, all that stuff. Like I was in choruses and stuff. I sang a lot, but like as I got older, like it's weird. I host a podcast, but if you told me right now, yo, I want you to sing the last lines of such and such song, go for it, and it's like, no, I'll shrivel up. But when the mics turn off and you're not in the room, I'll start singing, and it's like I don't have the confidence, and yet you were like, fuck that, I'm going out there and doing it anyway. And like too many people, including myself, don't have the balls to do that, whether the talent's there or not.
Honestly, it'll be, you know what, when or if I am invited to perform one of my songs at some event, after how I feel during it and after it, I will let you know
Yeah, because
because
I mean, you're
I'm
always
still,
gonna have the goosebumps regardless of whether you feel confident as a singer or not. Like you're always gonna have like, does that? Do you think? Do you think whether or not? Again, I heard you sing, and I dig it. Like I dig it. I dig what you're doing. But the thing is, do you think you are a top tier singer, or does that even matter to you?
oh no, no, I'm definitely not. I definitely tell that to people who are listening or planning on listening.
Just a
Um,
heads up, I suck.
no, I mean, like, I never preface people like, hey, I'm not that great. I hate, doing that. I used to do that all the
Yeah,
time.
don't shoot yourself short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's really bad for any artist. Don't undersell your work, even if you may be right. Don't don't do it, because you're already setting yourself up for people to notice what you don't want them to notice.
Yeah,
And it may not even be something that jumps out, or maybe they'll even like it. You know, I so I've never actually said to someone, "Hey, I can't really sing," but I definitely wouldn't consider myself like a singer,
right.
but I do like to use my own voice in my songs because the way I see it is it's an extension of me, so I have to do it.
Again, and it falls back to that. What's success? Am I successful because I made a couple of people swoon over my voice? All right, cool. Then I'm successful. Like what exactly does any of that mean? What does life mean? No, but really, what does that mean? But as I see it as like, and again, I attest this to what I've done in my life is oh, I felt good about that. Cool. But did the people I make it for feel the same?
When I was going through the process of getting the song Ruby to where I wanted it to be, the first recording I did, thought it was fine. I sent it, had it mixed. I sent it to a bunch of people, trusted people that are in music stuff, whose opinions, I value, and I
Okay.
know that they are experienced in listening and they have, good ears. And so I know that what they're telling me, obviously people are going to shield a little when you ask them, what do you think of this? They're not just going to tell you straight up that it sucks. But the people that I did send it to, I made a point where I was like, you know, whatever you think of it is fine, but give me a few things that, you think could be improved about it. And the first, kind of things rolling in, I had the producer, Diamondback, Nicholas Percival. He's one of my close friends who goes to Stevens, who produced this, and we're working on more. He'll probably be featured as the producer in those too. And he sent it to a bunch of people he knew in music, and they're not going to be. They have no obligation to be nice about my voice to him because they don't know who I am, and he didn't say that.
Right.
So, about 5 out of the first 6 things that he was telling me, he's like, "Yeah, Nick, this guy said your voice is too nasally. This guy said, you're weak in your voice. You need to project," which I agreed with actually. But
Yeah.
another one said, you know, another one said, it just doesn't sound good. Another one said, the voice just isn't good. Another one said he doesn't like the idea. So, I mean, initial criticism, I had never really had one of my own projects critically reviewed, and then I hear the unfiltered version of it. Because there's always at least slight filter with most people. Maybe not you, but most people at least have a slight filter. But hearing the raw, unfiltered criticism of your own work is something that definitely takes practice getting used to. Like I was sitting there, and I'm not gonna lie, I was getting a little hot hearing it. I was like, "What the?" I was like, "What the fuck?" Like why, why are these people saying my voice sucks?
Right.
And you obviously take that a little bit, but so as I was sitting there thinking about, well, okay, so if a lot of people are saying the vocals aren't working, what am I not seeing? If it's wrong, nothing's really wrong or right. It's just a preference. So I'm like, okay, so what am I not seeing? And then I went back and I recorded it again, and I put more behind it because one of my close friends who also goes to Stevens, he told me, honestly, he was like, I think this is a good idea. You really need to say it with your chest. You're not really. I feel like you're hiding, and that made me kind of realize I was like, maybe I'm still in that mode where I'm even afraid to sing into a mic in a room by myself.
Right.
So
Oh.
I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? Okay, I'm gonna take all this, hone that, record it again, put everything into it, send it back, and immediately it was received a lot better. Honestly, it's important to have someone that's constantly, not letting you slack.
No.
My producer is exactly the same way. Diamondback, Nick. I'll just call him Nick. Like he's definitely someone, that does not give me an inch in the production. Like I'll send him something. I'll be like, yeah, I think this came out good, and immediately I'll get back, like, okay, let's work on, maybe let's fix this, let's fix this. And honestly, you need someone to be able to constructively help your process. Like,
Right.
there's a difference between someone just saying everything sucks and a
Bro. Yeah.
difference between someone saying like constantly trying to improve something. Like there's two different goals there. One of them is just, they want the thing how they want it. And the other one is they want it to be the best that it can be for you.
Well, yeah. I think if you could collaboratively sit down with someone, have a legitimate conversation about the project at hand, and have an adult conversation about, okay, can we figure out what are the real issues with this what let's call it the project, and and can we figure the problems out? And boom, that's what you need. What you don't need is like what you just said, is someone that always, you give them something and they're like, oh, that sucked, man. And it's like, yeah, but why did it suck to you? What exactly about it didn't really work? What could be improved? Did I hit the F or did I hit an A? Like where did I go wrong in my singing? Where did I go wrong in the lyric writing? Like what should I change the word? Would a word help maybe insinuate a better idea in the song? Like all these things need to be dealt with. And it seems like you and Nick, the two Nicks, are is a great collaborative team, and only if so many people had that benefit, because so many other projects would be astonishing rather than just good. Just a little break from the episode. Just want to remind you guys that you can check us out on all of our social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, to get the latest news from us here at Facts Not Included. And if you haven't already, please make sure you're checking us out on our merch store at teepublic.com. That is teepublic.com. If you need a pillow, a t-shirt, a sweater, or anything with our logo on it, that is the place to go to get the best merchandise from us here at Facts Not Included, the podcast. Now back to the episode. Going like I know we talked about in the beginning of the episode, all hands in one basket. You do as much as you can, but idealistically, for you, does becoming a film composer seem more comfortable and more rewarding, or does becoming a solo vocal artist seem more rewarding and comfortable?
I think in my ideal world, I would like to have my hand in both.
Fuck you! You can only pick one.
Yeah, I knew I was not going to be able to.
No, of course I know what you're saying. Of course, I agree with that as well. But honestly, if you had to choose, where would you go? 5, 4. No,
it's a completely. No, I'll tell you why. It's a completely different, experience.
Yeah, it is.
And it's
when you get
there's aspects of each that I appreciate more than the other. Whereas I guess in the terms of film scoring, I really feel like it's one of the areas, not that I, as a solo artist you can't be yourself, but in film scoring, especially indie film scoring, it is the most authentic composition to what I am.
Yeah,
because no one edits it but me.
Right, and you're also the trusted head at the end of the day. Like they go to you to figure out, like, hey, what's the best piece here? What works the best in this specific scene?
Yeah, and it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to doing more of. There's a few things that I'm up to in that regard. One of them was a film student from New York City that I was connected with a few months back had asked me if I'd be willing to if I would be willing to score their final project, which then got canned because of the whole coronavirus. So they decided to make a documentary of New York City and shoot a bunch of glorious shots of the city.
Nice.
And then gave it all to me raw, and was like, hey, can you make 2, 3 to 4 minute soundtracks or sections for this? And honestly, approaching something like that where there's no sound except for the music, it's the same thing with this indie film scoring competition that I'm in now. I'll be submitting that like a week or two ahead. Another thing where there's no sound but what you put in it. It honestly, it's very freeing, but also nerve-wracking because you're so exposed. There's ways that you're more exposed in film scoring than you are as a solo artist, when I think about it. Because
explain that, because I would think. No, I see what you're saying, because you have so little room for a mistake.
Yeah, and it especially when there's very little audio besides what you're putting into it.
Right.
You are more exposed in some cases than you are, singing or playing something on stage, because, whether you are physically there or not, whether they can see you or not, you know that what you created is either going to elevate the material or not, and people will notice it regardless of, the rest of the movie. I guess there's a lot of responsibility with it, and it's interesting that it in some ways is, you know, less private, because you would think it would be the opposite. So I don't really do whenever there's an option to hear an example score, a lot of times when you get sent video, they'll say, "Oh, I kind of want it to, emulate this," or when I'm in the competition, they'll say, "Oh, there is an original. You can look at it if you want." There's another thing where I'm doing the music for this potential Nickelodeon Pilot Kids news show. And there are examples of that, but in my head, whether I'm right or wrong is, I guess, up to the audience. But in my own head, I prefer to take it, I like to take the raw material and, put what's authentic to me without having any sort of outside influence on that.
Yeah, and I guess going back to what you were saying about you being exposed as a solo artist, you could hide between a good bass, a good, just anything else could be hiding that flaw that you could be forgiven. But going with the film score, you have this ability to, like you said, completely wreck a film. And I know that sounds near impossible to a lot of people, but you could completely wreck a movie. I mean, think about how many movies you watch, and I even mentioned it before. You're watching it, and you're just like, I'm completely taken out of this movie because none of this fits. None of this is working for me. Or the opposite could happen. You have completely saved this movie. You've completely given this film the breath of fresh air it needed 20 minutes ago, and you are going to save this garbage film because you were able to somehow magically make a good score. The only time now we really hear orchestral music is, in the modern world we live in, is either you make it to Lincoln Center, the Met, and you listen to it live, or you go to a Marvel movie, or Star Wars movie. Do you think? I mean, on a big scale is what I'm saying. And not too many films could afford to hire, orchestra and do all that because, remember back in the day, every single movie had an orchestral theme.
Yeah, and a live orchestra.
And a live orchestra, right? Correct. And then that started not happening and all this stuff. And now we live in an age where it's like the big blockbuster movies must have that. To like we've gotten back to that. Like they must have it. But not too many movies do, and a lot of them have gone the path of doing complete soundtracks of using bullshit music. And then you have the ones that are utilizing modern sounds, modern synthesizations, and all that stuff. Where do you think film scores are going to go? Like, or will there always be that balance, or is it just going to sway one way to another, and then another generation gets the other kick of another wave of music?
Well, I think for sure. I'm not sure how into, gaming you are, but if you play a lot of, or even some, indie games where they have intricate soundtracks,
yeah,
big
that
budgets
go into that,
heavy,
yeah.
Or they don't even have to be synth heavy, but just they're very isolated in their ideas. I think that's definitely where I don't think you can have an orchestral sound forever. And honestly, to a degree, it depends on the film, but you need to match the epicness of an orchestra in order for me to care about it, or else I just find it unoriginal.
Yeah.
Like we've done this,
Yep.
I want to hear, there's so many sonic capabilities we have now with all this new music technology that constantly is evolving. I don't want to hear the same sound. I want to hear us bend what music is supposed to be. And I want that to be reflected in film. And it can.
Yeah.
And it is, to a degree. But I think it's definitely going towards there. I think if music can become an extension of the more advanced technological world we're in, then it absolutely should be because there's just so many. I could go into all the different ways you can manipulate a single sound, but
Right, right,
it's
right.
definitely moving away from what is physically possible is nowhere near what is digitally possible.
I think that's what's the scary part for a lot of people. It's like, the old school. It's like it's got to be made from a guitar, a real guitar. It can't be a button I press. And I get that argument. I completely understand. I probably lean that way more in terms when it comes to live music. But when it comes to a feature film or something, if you got to go the other route, and it's gonna sound a million times better, then go that route. Like
Yeah, and I mean, you can always create something digitally and have it adapted to a live version very easily.
yeah,
And it's cool to have aspects of both.
there's something that I wanted to ask you, and I think this is extremely important of a question. Or a thought. I mean, I'm not even sure if there will be a question in here because I've had this battle. And bear with me. I'm going to talk for a little bit, maybe, but bear with me. The idea of talent and what does that mean, right? In terms of a guy has a computer, he has a box, he presses some buttons, and boom, there's a song. That's what people think happens, right? I'm just spitting some shit here. But at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of talent behind that individual to make what they made. Then you have a guy who he's a guitar player, acoustic guitar player, electric, whatever the fuck. He also knows to play a piano. He disciplined himself to also do those two things, and he also could sing. So this guy knows two instruments, and if you want to count his vocals, that's a third. And then you got the other guy, like I said, that blood, sweat, and tears into creating music through a board. Which two of those people have the most have more talent? The question is, that's the question, right? The answer is, I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what you're talking about. Who's more talented at playing the piano? The guy who plays the piano, most likely. But in terms of who has the most talent, I don't know if you could really answer that. Because at the end of the day, they're both making some sort of music. And at the end of the day as well, yes, though this guy may seem like he's only clicking a few buttons here, it didn't take him a lunch break to figure that out.
There's different kinds of talents.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I think in the kind of creative landscape we're in, the people who work smarter are those who end up making the most impact, not necessarily those who toil over, one certain thing that they want to hone in. And there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to master an instrument or wanting to learn a few instruments. It's helpful for any kind of music composition. But I don't see it as any different for someone to have a bunch of clicks and samples and literally never touching any instrument besides like let's say a MIDI keyboard. I don't see that person as any less of a musician than someone who records everything naturally.
Yeah, and
I don't. There's
I
no
used
point
to.
because one may have taken years more of not even years more of experience, maybe just years more of effort learning all these different instruments.
Right.
But the other person was spending all that time honing in this very specific software that they now have mastered, which is an instrument
Yeah,
in my view.
you asked me 10 years ago, do you consider the guy I just described on his home computer as a musician? I'd say absolutely not. But now, I'm older, and I was 10 years ago. What was it, 15? Now I understand that it's 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 a different type of musician, just like a banjo player is a different type of musician as a a concert pianist. It's a complete, like, they're both musicians, but they do two different things. To ask that banjo player to get on the piano, he can't do it. He can't do it. So it's that same idea. The only difference between the guy that's in that studio and or computer at his house, whatever you want to, wherever the setting is he's able to play all those instruments through a few buttons, but they all have the same amount of knowledge at the end of the day. They know they know what certain notes are. They should know what all the notes are. Sorry, they know what composition is. They know X, Y, and Z, all that stuff. They know what's needed when it comes to composing music. What's next for you, man? Like, what's the next step? I know we just had Ruby just came out. So Ruby, for people that are not sure about this, is his new song, his first song, really. This is Nick's first song to hit the
Streaming services.
Streaming services, the internet. Again, words are gone, but it's. I like the cover art. I dig the song. I think it's cool. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's not my work, so I want you to talk about it. But is there more to come from this, or is this like a one-done deal in terms of the song, or is there going to be a music video, is what I'm saying? Or is there going to be anything else from you in the next coming weeks or months?
In terms of Ruby, I would think, I definitely had plans in my head to get photos and possibly a video, but that's obviously all on hold for the time being. So we'll see. I'd like to see how the song does after, a little while, and gauge what kind of content is necessary. But in terms of other songs, I'm definitely already in the process of getting those ready for releases.
And any idea when, or is that just something we're not gonna?
I'm gonna say, if I were to give tentative dates,
Yeah.
it would probably be July.
Oh, nice. All right,
Let's
so that
see. Could be sooner or later. It might be multiple. Honestly, depends on how the recordings comes out, and if I can get people that I wanted to feature,
right.
then we'll go ahead. I'll keep you updated on that.
So what about this song made you? Why did you write it? Because something Pete and I talked about last time is you could only create things. You should only create or write things that are that deal with you, that deal with your experiences, and something that comes out of you naturally. You necessarily shouldn't be talking about things that don't occur in your life or haven't, stuff like that. So what part of you allowed you to come up with this song?
So I guess initially I had ideas for songs. I had made songs before, not to this extent, but I had, dabbled in, singing over something and figuring out, what works and what doesn't for me. So I was actually going through my close friend Nick, who's the producer of this song. Definitely check out his stuff. I was looking at his old stuff, from when he first started. And one of the instrumentals he created about like a week, I think, or two into, his first production was one of the ones that caught me. And I was like, wow, I really like this idea. And then something immediately just came to me. What comes first is like a melody, not necessarily lyrics. I just hear the notes and I know like what I want it to sound like. And then I write off of that, which is kind of opposite, I guess, to what I've heard other people's process is like.
Michael Jackson used to do that.
That's
I'm not comparing you to Michael, but he used to do that. He would just sit there and just start. He'd think of the drums and he'd think of the guitar riff and then he'll write after that because it came to him naturally.
And it's never a concrete process. It's never like, oh, I come up with this and then I know this. It depends. It honestly depends on, the song. Sometimes it'll be a chord progression that I hear first. Sometimes it'll be a random, synth. One of the songs I have that I maybe one of the releases the first thing that came to me was this random, like, 3 4 note synth run, I guess, that isn't even really the melody, chord, or anything in the song, just besides a side thing. That's what came to me first, and then I build off of that. Um, Sometimes it's the bass line. It's usually never the lyrical content. It can be just a melody, though, that I hum to myself, and then I build instrumentals off of that. But it's never one concrete thing. I think that's definitely something I've seen with my own artists. It's never one specific process. It kind of just comes whenever it does, and I just kind of let that happen.
And this is something that's always been your case. Isn't that something you just started uh, recently? This has just always been your MO in terms of creating music?
I mean, if I've ever, every time I've tried to sit down and I've said, okay, I'm going to make this, it never comes out the way that I intended.
Right. Yeah, it's
I cannot make things on command.
yeah. I could only do that on a literal blank canvas of when I'm about to draw. But when it comes to writing, I can't do that. I have to actually have some sort. It has to have some sort of purpose. My
I know
art.
I've been criticized for this throughout my whole academic career is I write my essays in the wrong order all the time.
What?
Yeah, right. Okay, so this is
So like your introduction per se is like not really that.
yeah, like
I've done that.
whatever,
You're right.
like it's I don't know if it's a brain malfunction or
No, I do
it's
it
just
too.
it's
I've
just the order in which I put things down is never the order that most people would
wait. So
keep them in.
let's see if we do it the same way because I'm confused because when you said it's not in it's all not in the same order, I'm thinking like you're writing backwards. So
No,
because what I do is I'll come up with like the meat of the whatever the essay is, whatever, and then at the end I'll figure out the quote unquote intro.
yeah, no, I cannot follow a thesis. I write and
Yeah,
then the thesis comes from that.
yeah, same. Yeah, 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 yeah. Actually, my senior thesis was written just like that. I wound up writing 50 pages of nonsense, and then I had the thesis had to have been a page or two or more. I don't know, and I came out of that from whatever I wrote before, and I was like, I cannot set myself, and I think you could agree with this, and it has to do with parameters. Do not set me with limits. As an artist, as a creative person, when you're handed limits, everything falls to wreck. Everything just fails.
Yeah, no, I think creatively I feel the same way. I cannot it's almost frustrating sometimes because I'll I want to, set out a goal and then go after it and achieve it, but it never can work like that. I always take some sort of huge right turn away from what I expect. And I just let it happen. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's more fun that way.
yeah.
I like the unpredictability of it.
Maybe it is beneficial that happens for you. You know, because then at the end of the day, you already know what you're striving for. So as long as you're getting to that point, it doesn't matter how you got there.
I don't think people, succeed from directly following the people before them. You take some cues, but most of the time, this is your show.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at least you shouldn't also be taking everything from that other individual because whatever that individual had to go through, there was other, limitations and stuff that are in that person's way. So hopefully you're smart enough also to not take everything from them. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
it
agree.
it
Yeah,
comes to you, it's yours.
yeah,
Go ahead and put that out because that's what people really want.
yeah. To wrap things up here, um, where can the people find you?
So I'm definitely most active on my Instagram, which is my name Nick Nick underscore LaFragola LAFRAGOLA. And I'll be posting a lot there about the song, lots of other things. I'll be featuring on that too, film scoring. I'm probably gonna hold that stuff off until a few weeks with this song. I gotta promote that. I'd say really Instagram is the best place to reach me. I don't really use my Twitter for much music related things, and Facebook, I don't, who uses that. So, um, and Snapchat, really, I don't use that for music related things either. So, definitely my Instagram is the wheelhouse to catch all the content that I want you to see.
For those that have listened to this entire episode, whatever its entirety equals, thank you so much for listening. Again, if you haven't already, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, of course, at Facts Not Included. If you have any ideas or information you want to send us, email us at factsnotincluded@gmail.com. It has been an honor and a good time, my friend, to have you on. It was fun. We're definitely going to have you on again in the future. We're going to talk. It's been real. We'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.